Tell us, Psychic. You're on. Go ahead.
Yeah, like, man, my favorite TV show is Saturday Night Live, And I was wondering if they're going to change the way they start the show.
No, it's always going to be live from New York. It's Saturday night.
Hello and welcome to the Not Ready for Primetime Project. We're Gary Seath and Brad Robinson.
And you're not.
This week on the early years of SNL, we're talking about Season 4, Episode 19, with host Maureen Stapleton and musical guests Linda Ronstadt and Phoebe Snow. This show originally aired on May 19th, 1979. Brad, you a big fan of Maureen Stapleton?
This is a safe spot, right, Gary?
You're always safe with me, buddy.
So I feel comfortable telling to you that every time I hear the name Maureen Stapleton. Oh, it's going where you think it's going.
Okay, good.
I have to remind myself she did not star in All in the Family with Carol O'Connor.
Exactly. I was hoping you were going to say that.
I have to actively tell myself, no, that's not her. It's not Jean Stapleton.
You know what's funny about this is at some point in an earlier episode, you mentioned Carol O'Connor and you mentioned Jean Stapleton. And in my head, I was like, yeah. And then I realized, no, it's not Jean Stapleton. It's Maureen Stapleton. And here we are.
And then I had to look it up. No relation. Like I was kind of hoping, grab onto something. No relation.
No,
and
not at all. No.
Even just to be more humorous, I'm researching and looking up clips of her, and I saw clips of Maureen Stapleton on a talk show, on a panel talk show.
All right.
Who the hell is she sitting next to?
Oh, Carol O'Connor.
Yeah, Carol O'Connor. I'm like, what the hell, man? I had to go back again. Really? That's not her? Okay. Anyway,
apparently
all right, good.
The booker of that show got confused as well.
Yeah.
No, Maureen Stapleton, star of stage and then screen, but definitely a big Broadway actress. I knew her from the Bye Bye Birdie film.
Of course you did.
Where she starred as Dick Van Dyke's mother, even though she was only, I believe, 5 months older than Dick Van Dyke.
Oh, God. Well, this tracks.
It's a great film.
No, you're right. She had won a couple Tonys at this point, won an Emmy. She was nominated for an Oscar this year. They just had the Oscars a month ago. She was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for Interiors. Sound the Woody Allen conspiracy alarm, Andy Hoagland. I mean, I can't think of another reason why they booked this young lady on the show.
Yeah. It is an interesting booking.
I honestly can't figure it out. I don't mean it in a bad way. I legitimately can't figure out why. Like, she's not like an old TV legend like your Desi Arnaz, Milton Berle's that, like, oh, we love her, we need to bring her in. It's
right.
Why? It's and not that they didn't have fun with her. The cast did seem to have fun the whole time, especially in the good nights. But I was just, it was interesting. It's an interesting choice, I feel like.
It feels like another instance where they didn't necessarily know what to do with a host. She doesn't have a lot to do here.
No, that is another thing that is striking. You can tell. Yeah, it's kind of not in a lot. And when she is in sketches, she doesn't have a lot to do in them for the most part. Not all the time, but many sketches. Yeah.
No, we'll get to one role she plays later. But my note was, is this the height of Maureen Stapleton's career? I don't think so. But everyone seemed to enjoy her. The crowd was really into her being there, or seemed to be.
I think so. Yeah. Now that I know who she is and who she's not, I realize I don't really know much of Maureen Stapleton. I guess I know the name, and that's really about it. Like, I didn't know Bye Bye Birdie. Not all of us were choir majors in high school.
I was in Bye Bye Birdie.
Okay, here we go.
I played Ed Sullivan.
Ed Sullivan's in Bye Bye Birdie? I definitely don't know that play.
Good Lord.
The Ed Sullivan?
What? Well, yeah, that's who I played.
He's in Bye Bye Birdie. That's a character in Bye Bye Birdie?
They go on the Ed Sullivan show. Yeah.
Who's that? Who's they? Birdie?
Oh, no. Birdie's there, but the family too.
Wait, there's okay, never mind. Wrong podcast.
You know nothing of Bye Bye Birdie?
I know nothing. I know nothing. And
Good
full
Lord.
disclosure, I probably saw you play the performance in high school. No idea. Anyway,
I'm pretty sure you did.
probably. Maybe
I can't believe you don't remember. It was captivating.
Look where we are now. That paid off dividends.
Yeah, well, for you it did because you get to be with me.
Yeah. You did get the short straw there. Sorry about that. One thing I did find funny, though, she apparently studied with Marilyn Monroe, and who was only a year younger, which is striking because I guess, anyway. But they'd become friends, and Maureen Stapleton had said she always felt upset Marilyn Monroe never got legit roles. She always played ditzy blondes, and she couldn't actually act because they were friends, and she, like, my friend is an actor. She can act.
Right.
But she had a line, which I loved, that she said she considered herself lucky, saying, "I never had that problem. People looked at me on the stage and said, Jesus, that broad better be able to act." And having read that before going into this episode, I had high hopes. I was like, okay, I dig this chick. I'm into it.
It seems like she has a sense of humor about herself and things.
I agree.
But yeah, she doesn't get a lot of opportunity to show that in this episode, I don't think, unfortunately.
No. Didn't Walter Matthau reference her in his monologue? Didn't he give like a shout out in the crowd that day? We're like, why is he talking to Maureen Stapleton?
Oh, yeah.
I think
right, because she was in the crowd, right?
Allegedly. We never saw her, but he like made reference.
Right.
Then we said, she's going to host later this season.
Yeah.
I think I pawned it off of them being like old drinking buddies or something.
Right. And you thought it was Gene Stapleton.
Shall we just get into it?
Yeah, let's do it. So the cold open starts on Telepsychic again with Ray, played by Bill Murray. Yeah. And wrong. This is...
That's Bill Murray, is not him.
What did I say? Oh, I said Ray,
played by Bill Murray.
No, that's not right.
He doesn't even play Ray in the Ghostbusters.
No, he doesn't. Dan does. Dan plays Ray in both instances.
All right, bring it back.
So this was a part where it opens on Telepsychic, and it is the same sketch that we saw earlier this season, right? I think it was episode 8 or whatever.
It was the Eric Idle episode that we saw this last time. But that one felt more like every time the callers called, you could just tell he was lying, like making it up.
Right.
And this version, it just seemed he was just like answering questions. I don't know.
Just quickly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, is my wife cheating on me? Yes. There's something like that.
That one, he kind of danced around it, right? To make it seem like he was a little more. Yeah.
It didn't feel like they were legit questions that people were looking for real answers, and then he would lie his way out of, or, make up an explanation. This just seemed less thought out, perhaps?
Yes, that was exactly what I thought.
Okay.
Lorraine asks how long she'll live. John asks if his wife's cheating. Jane and Bill come on, and it all comes down to Garrett asking the same question about the open to Saturday Night Live.
Are they going to change the way they start the show? My favorite show, which is very reminiscent of that episode Gilda did, when Gilda had the cold open and she's reading the cue cards, and it wasn't like the same exact kind of setup where someone asked, what's the opening line, or how do they start the show? Same kind of thing.
Right. And with the Telepsychic before too. I think it's full circle. It just felt to me like we're recycling material here.
Yeah.
And my hope at this point was, well, that's because they're saving the real good stuff for Maureen Stapleton.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't dislike it. It was fine. It was kind of like, to me, it felt like a vintage cold open. Like, we've seen this before, like something specifically written as a cold open just to purposely get you the live from New York.
Yeah.
And since it was so short and it was Dan, I enjoyed it. Like, it was...
I didn't even think, like, Dan didn't even seem to enjoy it, though.
I will say he seemed a little reserved. Yeah.
He's probably like, why are we doing the same thing we did 3 months ago?
I mean, it is the end of the season. They could be, I mean, let's be honest. They're probably tapped out. It's the end of the season, and you got clear. Buck coming up. We only have enough for one old person. Sorry, non-Gene Stapleton.
Well, then Maureen Stapleton comes on for her monologue, and the crowd erupts.
Huge applause, as it is in season 4, especially the back half. Yes.
Yeah.
And I was expecting this monologue to be about how she has no idea why she's here. I was expecting one of those monologues, like, I don't even know why I'm on this show.
I was expecting you to say you were expecting the monologue to be about All in the Family. And then you were totally thrown off.
When I saw the face, I realized I was wrong. It confirmed that I was wrong. Research be damned.
She comes on and she's talking about the show. I love that she calls them a company. She doesn't call them the cast. She says they're a great company. She's effusive with her praise. And then she talks about giving. She didn't realize she only had 10 tickets and she gave them all away. And so her family was watching from her dressing room. We'll be right back. That was it. That was her entire monologue.
Yeah, it's a little rough. Oof. They gave her basically that's it. One joke / story to tell.
Yep.
That didn't really go anywhere.
No.
And it just, nothing landed. None of the little jokes or things landed. So it was just kind of a rough monologue.
Right. That's another thing that I think that we'll see a few times tonight where things don't necessarily land throughout the show. Yeah.
I agree. Are you a fan of this episode? Like, did you enjoy it? I'm just curious. I meant to ask you earlier.
No, I can't really say that I am. There are a couple of things here and there that made me laugh.
Okay.
Anyway. Right after the monologue, we get the same commercial that we had a few weeks ago for the Navy.
A few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's not just a job. It's $96.78 a week.
Yep.
Same one.
Yep. Yeah, same one. And then we go to an apartment where Bill and Lorraine are a couple, and they're complaining to one another about the guy who's staying with them. And in walks Garrett as Idi Amin.
Huge applause.
So Idi Amin had just been deposed a month prior from his government. And part of it is that he was kind of bouncing around, figuring out where he's going to go in the world. And he's
in hiding. Yeah.
Yeah. He's in hiding on Bill and Lorraine's apartment, which is fun. And then they confront him because he did things like he slaughtered an antelope in the kitchen and then didn't clean it up. And
come on, Edie. Neither of us eat antelope.
Yeah. He kept Lorraine up the night before, interrogating people in the bathroom. This was something that I liked this premise. I liked the thought behind this. And like I said, it was all current events. It was recent stuff. Garrett didn't do as well as I wanted him to do in this sketch.
I thought he did fine. I don't think he was too bad.
I don't think he was too bad, but he wasn't I don't know. I wish he were better in this sketch.
I understand what you mean. Because it's a Garrett-centric sketch. So
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did like the line where they talk about the phone bill.
You don't even write down phone messages. Look, there's a pad right
by the phone. Yeah. Which reminds me about this bill that came last week.
Kampala, $19. Kampala, $18.50. Kampala, $71. Okay, Philadelphia was mine, but almost all the rest of them here are yours. The Sudan. Who here is calling the Sudan?
Look, Doug, I've been raising an army. I'm mounting a coup right now, and as soon as I return to power, I'll pay the phone bill.
Opens the closet door. I come home from work and find these two guys, and these guys drop. If they're unconscious, wake them up. If they're dead, get them out of here. Bill tried his best. Bill tried his best in this sketch. It's so absurd. I believe this is Franken and Davis wrote this piece, and I do think it played a lot better then. Because like you said, it's very timely. It was only a month past since Idi Amin was, kicked out of Uganda and was on the run. So I feel like it was in the news and it was more of a thing at the time, and people probably enjoyed the satire and the joke better than now. Performances aside.
But that's the part that killed me is I thought the jokes were there, and I really felt like Garrett's performance was what dragged me down with this one. Because I thought Bill did well. I thought a lot of these jokes actually worked. And it just, I don't know. He kind of took me out of it in a way.
I could see that. It's very odd. It felt very odd to me on many accounts. Most striking being that the host wasn't in it. That's what took me.
Well,
I was very shocked to see the opening sketch of the night and the host wasn't in it, when I feel like she could have easily been incorporated into it somehow.
Very easily.
Like, as you're just saying, it's not the funniest of sketches. So that's also odd as a leadoff that you do this. It's an odd way to kick things off.
Yeah. I mean, I think the joke with the guys falling out of the closet could have worked better if there were more gags like that. More, I don't know. More visuals, I think, is what I was looking for.
You hear a squealing antelope from the kitchen?
Yes, something like that.
Something like that.
I did like when they were trying to get him to find his own place. It turns into a promo for the Essex House with Don Pardo's voiceover. That was good.
The actual promos.
Yeah.
They cut them out of the DVDs and Peacock, so you can't see them, but they still, at this point, were having those Don Pardo Essex House commercials.
What about the Essex House?
Oh, the Essex House. Could I cook in the room? You know, I might get recognized in restaurants.
Well, you can have room service. As a matter of fact, one of New York's great dining experiences is room service at Marriott's Essex House overlooking Central Park.
Really? Tell me more.
New York's great dining experiences is room service at Marriott's Essex House overlooking Central Park. For reservations, call toll-free. Hotel accommodations furnished in exchange for this announcement.
That was fun. I liked the silliness of that in that moment and in that sketch. And then they finally get him to leave, and Garrett is walking out the door and tries to kiss Lorraine. Did you catch that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is very awkward, Garrett. Like, you've made this whole thing awkward, and then that was just kind of the chef's kiss at the end of, yep, we're going to double down on the awkwardness.
He was taking lessons from Milton Berle. He's like, how can I milk my exit? What can I do to give me one more beat before I leave the scene?
So you didn't like this sketch?
I didn't love it. It felt very odd to me for, like I said, all those reasons. I didn't hate it, but there was something odd about it that never connected.
I agree in a way. I did like it, but I agree that it was like the placement of it, I think, was odd, especially when we see what comes up later on, and there are some weird choices. But and right after that, we get Linda Ronstadt and Phoebe Snow come on to sing the Shoop Shoop song. It's in His Kiss. I have to be honest, I was a little underwhelmed with this song.
I was too. And I'll be also honest with you, I was looking forward to it, actually.
So was I.
It's a great song with two very good vocalists, great vocalists. I was like, this is going to be great.
Yeah. And I wrote down, I wanted to be blown away by them, not by Lou Marini's sax solo. And that was the part where I was like, oh, nice job, Lou Marini. But I wish there was more from those two, more than just them dancing the cha-cha.
Yeah, like they both have great voices. And to your point, you'd think this would be a home run, but it just felt kind of middling. Like, again, didn't connect. It was kind of going through the motions and, underwhelmed is the best way to say it.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt.
I don't know why they sung it. It's not like one of them just covered it on an album or something. I mean, aside from the fact that on paper it makes sense, two amazing vocalists doing a traditionally great song, like why not?
Right.
But other than that, I can't figure out why they would bother to do it.
Well, it's kind of a weird booking too for this show, right?
Yeah, I mean, Linda Ronstadt is big. She had an album out the year before, which was her third #1 album. So she's big, and they're apparently very, very good friends. So probably an instance of, let's get Linda Ronstadt on the show. And she says, sure, but I want my really good friend Phoebe Snow to come on. And they're like, yeah, she's friend. This is the third time.
Right.
And last time Phoebe Snow will be on the show. And first of 4 for Linda Ronstadt. But I think that's what it was.
Right. And I think I was surprised at this song choice then, because before we watched the show, I thought, oh, they'll do like a song of Phoebe Snow's and a song of Linda Ronstadt's, and they'll do them together in some way. And then they come on and do this song. And I was like, well, okay, except I didn't enjoy it.
No, I know. I knew they were on together, but again, safe spot, Gary. I feel like I know Linda Ronstadt's name, but I can't tell you a Linda Ronstadt song.
That's probably true of me as well.
Like,
I'm sure if we pulled up,
she's huge in the 70s, like one of the biggest female singers of the 70s. She was like, I think the first one to sell out arenas and such. But I honestly know her as covering Warren Zevon tunes. Like on that last album, she had Mohammed's Radio on it. Yeah. And she's covered like 3 or 4 others. Poor, Poor, Pitiful Me, Hasten Down the Wind. I think there's another one. So I kind of tried to look it up. Like, there must be a hit that I'm forgetting. I didn't notice anything.
To be fair, you do relate everyone in life to how they connect to Warren Zevon. So,
well, I mean, that makes sense. You should.
Yeah. What I did not know until watching this episode and doing a little more research, trying to figure out why these two were on together, was that Phoebe Snow sings the jingle for Colon Blow.
No shit.
Yeah.
I did not know that either.
And we just had a tournament talk about commercials, and we talked about Colon Blow a lot. And I wish I had known at the moment that Phoebe Snow actually was the singer of the Colon Blow jingle.
That's hilarious, because she's like kind of on a downward slope at this point. I think she has an album come out like a year or two later, but then doesn't release another one for 7-8 years. So it's interesting to hear the Colon Blow era. Like she did that.
It's like another 10 or 12 years after this, she does the jingle for Colon Blow.
Speaking of minutia that doesn't matter, why did Maureen Stapleton change clothes for this introduction? She hadn't do anything since the cold open or since the monologue. I was like, she comes out wearing a robe. I'm like, why'd you change, lady?
Well, it's because she was getting changed for the next sketch.
Oh, I guess.
So after their performance, the first person we see is Garrett again. Garrett's getting all kinds of screen time.
He's around all night tonight, yeah.
And he is killing roaches in his bathroom. And then Dan comes on and does a live commercial for a roach brothel.
Bill.
Did I say Dan again?
Yeah. No.
So I said Dan looking at Bill, and
Yes.
Ooh. Somebody had a little too much whiskey when he was writing his notes for this episode. I may not remember as much as I thought I did.
Okay.
And then we go to a live reenactment of a roach brothel and how that works. And John plays a roach, and Gilda and Lorraine play 2 roach prostitutes. And Maureen Stapleton, this is where I wrote, is this the height of her illustrious career? Plays a roach madam.
Yes.
And I really liked this. I really like John as the roach walking by, being seduced by these 2 women. Like he played it up.
Yeah.
In a way that we haven't seen John like act in characters like this much lately at all.
I see what you're saying. It's quick. Very quick.
It was very quick. The whole thing was, yeah.
I was expecting more of a sketch. It's really just it's a commercial parody. It's really what it is. It's Bill comes on and he shows the box, and on the box is the front of like a drawing of the brothel, and then that zooms you into the set, and it's just a minute or two of everything. John walks on, the women corral around him and then bring him inside, and then they go back, and like that's the end of the commercial. And I was expecting there to be more of a sketch happening than just that.
Yes.
So to your point, yes, what we did get was, maybe that's why I didn't like it that much, is what we did get was fun. I was just thought there would be more, like, or if nothing else, like another roach would walk by, like Dan would walk by, and Jane would seduce him and bring him in, or something.
That's exactly
to
what I
keep going would be fun. But I agree with what you're saying. The performances were good. It was just so quick. All I had to write was, it's like the bees, but not.
Right.
Because that was my first. When you saw them dressed up as the roaches, I'm like, oh, it's bees, but not. And then, holy shit, that was quick, because I was settling in for a sketch that never came.
My reaction after seeing Maureen Stapleton as the madam was, I'm glad they didn't make Garrett the pimp. Like, I'm glad they didn't force him to be the pimp in this case, which is kind of surprising, to be honest.
I wouldn't have mind that. I think Garrett plays that character well, so I wouldn't have mind seeing it.
They're only shoehorning Garrett into pimps and dressing in drag.
And Idi Amin. Right. Pretty flimsy set, though, too. When he starts trying to kill the cockroach on the wall, the entire wall starts wobbling.
Yes. I thought it was going to go down.
It's only a 2-wall set, obviously, so there's like just not enough support. But that was funny. I'm like, oh, damn.
Yeah. They're like, Garrett, stop hitting so hard. So, yeah, that was it. It was fast. It was quick, in and out. And then from there, this is what kind of caught me off guard, was Maureen Stapleton and Gilda went from being dressed as roaches into this next scene. And I thought, oh, this is where you could have moved things around so there wasn't a quick change for them and done the Idi Amin thing in between here, but whatever.
Yeah, but you don't lead off with this, because this is, they never lead off with a slice of life.
No. Well, I was thinking the roach brothel. Like if you fleshed it out more.
I kind of had that. I had that idea too, and then it's weird the timing of it all. But I was thinking that Maureen couldn't change into the outfit quick enough after the monologue, but she could do it after a musical number and a monologue.
Right.
I had that same kind of thought, and I was like half-ass running the numbers, and that's why I figured it didn't happen that way.
Yeah. Well, we do get Maureen in a slice of life sketch, like you said. Gilda plays her daughter who comes to see her mother because it's Maureen's birthday and Gilda wants to take her out for dinner. And Maureen has made an appetizer of brisket and roasted potatoes. And then it's just Maureen saying things and frustrating Gilda, talks about her neighbor, Mrs. Kelman's daughter.
Mrs. Kelman's daughter.
I am not taking the brisket to the restaurant.
Take the brisket.
Help God get me out of this discussion.
It was a $12 brisket.
Okay, Mom. Okay, fine. $12. $12 here, Mom. Take the $12.
Mrs. Kelman's daughter checked a veal roast at Trader Vic's.
Mrs. Kelman's daughter calls her every day. Mrs. Kelman's daughter took Mrs. Kelman to Nassau. Mrs. Kelman's daughter has 3 wonderful grandchildren, and Mrs. Kelman's daughter does it with your dentist in the same chair where you get your teeth cleaned.
This was an interesting slice of life. It felt like it wanted to be a something more. I don't know. I guess I wanted something more out of it than what it was.
I'm with you. It's a slow build. I actually wanted to go back and watch this one again because I didn't love it. And I was wondering if I missed stuff because it starts off kind of surface level. It just slowly builds. Gilda's aggravation slowly builds as her mother starts arguing with her about not wanting to go to dinner. We can stay here. I made brisket. I did like when Maureen walked off stage to go get the brisket and she left her fur coat on the couch and Gilda starts jumping up and down on the couch. I did laugh out loud. I thought that was great. It's again, classic Gilda physical humor I thought was funny. So it's an interesting mother-daughter dynamic that I admittedly do not relate to.
Well, I was going to say that, yeah.
And so I think it was very easy for me to miss a lot of it.
I think there's a lot of that where you and I we are neither mothers nor daughters. And so that dynamic is probably lost on us in some way.
Because I did think it had some moments. There were some nice lines. There was some really great reactions. Gilda's sarcastic, snarky comments back to her mother.
Yeah.
There was something interesting and enjoyable about seeing these 2 different generations of actresses share the scene just by themselves.
Yep.
That was nice to see. I did enjoy watching that. I thought Gilda did a great job and she felt like she held her own. Maureen Stapleton, as we said, accomplished actress.
Yep.
Stage and screen. She's been around, knows what she's doing. It's kind of similar to John and Sissy Spacek, where John's trying to hold his own with her.
Right.
And I think Gilda does a great job in this, but Gilda is funny, I guess. And that's what's kind of weird is the balance of comedy versus seriousness in this sketch, because it's a very tight line I think they try to straddle. And that's why I wanted to go back and watch it again, because the performances aren't bad and there's good things in it, but I didn't love it. So something about it just didn't click with me that these used to more often than not.
Well, this wasn't written by Marilyn Suzanne Miller, for one. And I think it definitely, it has that tone, but there was something about the way in which she wrote these sketches where she would get you into it and invested in it much faster than I feel this one did. Because I didn't feel like everything really clicked until Maureen Stapleton came back from being in the kitchen and wrapping up the roast or the brisket. But before that, it just kind of felt like they were still... the sketch was settling into place and they were settling into place and it wasn't...
And nobody knew where to go.
Yeah. And it was I felt like Gilda's character was reacting to things just awkwardly in the beginning, and then it kind of fleshed out, and then it made more sense at the very end. So it was like a nice final minute of the sketch for me.
I agree. Maureen comes back out with the brisket, and that's where the conflict hits its peak and it starts firing correctly, and it runs out really good. And then it's really nice at the end where Gilda has a cigarette, the mom puts the coat on and she's like, how do I look? And you look great. And there's that really nice moment when they leave, and then they do a good button at the end where they walk out the door and Maureen Stapleton runs back and grabs the brisket. So there are a lot of nice moments to it. So it's definitely an interesting watch.
Yeah.
I did like the Chiron. I know we don't always hit it, but coming up next, Sesame Streetwalker.
I saw that. I wrote that down as well. Yeah.
I did like that one.
I did too. And then we go to Weekend Update, brought to us this week by Premature Ejack-O-Lantern. Make sure you get yours for next Halloween.
Makes Halloween get here before you know it.
That's what it was.
I was surprised I got past the censors, actually. I don't know. It struck me as like almost a little too close on the nose.
Maybe.
It was funny. I liked it. It was funny.
Yeah, I did too. We get a bunch of jokes that they're talking about $1 gas. Gas has hit $1. Not going to be a problem until it hits 2 or 3. And I was like, ha ha ha, $1 gas. That's adorable. They do another bit with Don Pardo about the Shah's assassination and how apparently there was people put hits out on the Shah of Iran. And so they had Don Pardo announce prizes, including goatskin luggage and a flying carpet.
What else will he win? Tell us, Don Pardo.
Yeah. They take a shot at Dr. Joyce Brothers.
Crowd loved that one.
Yes,
Loved
they did.
It's basically just Jane ripping into her. Yeah, it was good. I liked it. Yeah. It was funny.
And then Dan shows up as station manager again to do point counterpoint on nuclear energy. My initial reaction was, wow, that was a short Weekend Update. Because they usually end with point counterpoint.
Oh, that's true.
But no, that was not the end. Nothing stood out in the point counterpoint for me. Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I think there was some good verbiage in there. I like Dan's beginning of his retort, Jane, you magnificently ignorant slut. And I think they both delivered the lines well, as always. I mean, they're both really good in these. But I agree. It didn't feel very biting and somehow felt more like a retread of the others than most before. And I get they're all basically the same thing.
Sure.
But something about this one just felt, like we said it earlier in Telepsychic, just not thought out. Like, half the effort kind of in, like, let's just pick this up and use the same old. So I agree. It was just kind of okay, which is sad because this will be our last original point counterpoint.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
They do an Indy 500 joke where they're talking about incorporating horses, and a horse dropped dead. The horse named Fragrant Stool dropped dead because of it. And then they show a picture of its jockey, Angel Diario, who's a very large man.
And they finish it off good. Bill's line, he quotes the guy, "I love that horse. I'm having it for dinner tonight."
Yeah, that's right.
Bill just has his classic swarmy smile and turns the page.
Yeah, that was good. And then we get science editor John Belushi talking about Skylab.
John's back. And something else we haven't seen in ages. John at the desk.
And he's talking about Skylab. They're predicting is going to fall out of space at some point in June or July. And then it turns into, again, another typical John Belushi rant at the desk.
The first note I wrote on this, other than John's back, is this is going long.
Yes.
And I felt like it just begun. Like, it is a very long-winded explanation of what this thing is in the sky and what happened and how it got there and what it's going to do. And it doesn't really go anywhere until he somehow goes into paying his taxes.
Right.
Like, he just makes a complete left turn.
Yep.
Trying to shoehorn it in somehow into the topic of, well, I pay my taxes and they take all this money, and why can't they do it on this? And why can't they spend it on this? And he can't even get to the catchphrase.
Right.
Before the audience starts clapping and shouting and howling, before he can even say, but no. But it's like, again, and I did not think of this before until we started talking, but it's like half thought out. All you really had is this, the science editor part, which doesn't really do anything. And then completely different story to tell like 2 lines of taxes to get you into but no. And it's like, let's throw it out there. We haven't done it in a while.
Yeah. It just felt like an easy bit to shoehorn in there, but it was a long bit.
It was long.
Shoehorn in there.
I will say though, Jane, of course, brings it home like a champ.
Of course. How great is Jane?
How great is Jane? Because he takes like the broken Skylab thing and like stabs himself in the neck and like falls down. And it's just like, what the hell did we just watch? And Jane's got that look that's like, okay, good night and have a pleasant tomorrow. Yeah.
And Bill, as she's saying that, Bill is already taking his mic off and he's looking at the monitor like, can I get up? Can I get up? Can I get up?
This is where I actually wrote the note down of, does this episode feel like it's just going through the motions?
It did. Yes.
Like, because has anything really hit yet?
No, I don't think so. Maybe again, mother-daughter might have been, but like nothing at this point. You're through Weekend Update and just nothing has really stood out. No.
And
not
I don't
even the musical guests.
No. And I don't think it gets better on the next sketch, which
I agree with you.
If you look at the rundown, you're like, this is the highlight. And I don't know.
No, we get another Nick the Lounge Singer. This time it's Nick Wings in the Eastern Airlines VIP lounge at O'Hare.
I like that it was at O'Hare. I always like when they do Chicago. I don't know why. I always like when they make it Chicago. When Bill does something in Chicago.
My first note was, God damn it, Garrett is dressed up as Pearl Bailey.
Yeah, I had that. I had a feeling. Yeah. And he's not light this week. It's not like This is a week they had. That was my first thought. It wasn't like, oh, why is Garrett in drag? It was more like, he's not light this week. Like Garrett has a full plate.
Yes, he's been very busy. You don't need to put him in a dress.
That being said, he was fine as Pearl Bailey.
He was fine. Maureen Stapleton plays Mrs. Bob Hope, and then Bill calls her Bob, which I thought was funny.
But she's great. She's great. She says like what she's doing, and it's like, is that all? And she mentions she's gonna have lunch with a couple people.
Yeah,
and that's it. And then that's it. She's like done. I was like, 2 lines this lady gets.
Phoebe Snow does a walk by.
That was a good cameo. I like that.
Yeah, Dan's there with a Japanese businessman. He has some translator thing.
The Dan's another one. Remember the last time we saw this? It's like they just gave Dan a character so he could talk about a bunch of technical stuff.
Yeah.
Play like a Dan character. It's all that was there was no business other than for him to like have this new calculator that does translation. He could type in underwear and sound very Dan techie. That's all that was for him.
That's true. I didn't even think of that listening to this one. You're right. The women are there on their way to a conference for women, and Bill tries to hit on them and they're all disgusted.
Gilda was great. He talks about, a conference of 15,000 women. Nick Wins will do well there. And Gilda deadpan. I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah.
And he's got the microphone. Get that obnoxious thing out of my face. She was very good.
Yeah. And then we get a Linda Ronstadt cameo. John plays her bodyguard because Bill's a little too aggressive with her.
Bill was at his best at this point in the sketch. The like hitting, flirting on Linda Ronstadt. It was almost that celebrity corner kind of vibe, stargazer thing. Yep. I did enjoy the part with Linda Ronstadt was fun. I actually wish there would have been more. Like if they could have gone longer, done something more, because this was the fun part of the sketch. Him and Linda Ronstadt. She did a good job.
She did. And then they leave, and he sings Scarborough Fair, which is so far to date my favorite performance of a Paul Simon song on Saturday Night Live.
Art Garfunkel did well.
Oh, that's right, he did. And that was it. That was Nick Wings. Again, it was fine. It kind of felt like it was going through the beats.
Yeah.
It felt like they had too many people for anything to really hit. That was how I felt.
Yeah, and all the other times, and maybe this kind of was the same reason on the auto train one. There's no connective tissue between the characters because he's in a very random spot. So it's an airline where the other places, you're at the ski lodge or you're at like everybody's at a campground or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like everybody's at this resort or place for a reason, so they're all there, like that sense of community, like Jimmy Joe Red Sky's there, and it all makes sense. Where this one's just like he's in a random spot singing to a bunch of random people for no real reason.
Yeah,
maybe that had something to do with why it just feels so separated.
Yeah,
who knows.
Next we have more Garrett. Again, you didn't need to put him into a dress. He's got enough going on tonight. We have black perspective.
My first note is when I see the panel, okay.
Yeah. This black perspective is all about illegal aliens.
Another victimized minority.
Yeah. So Jane and John play a couple from Ukraine, and Gilda plays a woman from Guatemala.
Even the audience doesn't know what to do with this one. There are like no laughs. There's just like a chuckle here and there. Like no one really knows what to do with this.
Not at all.
And part of it is it takes a little while to get to the point of the sketch where Garrett has them on because they're now the lowest rung on the ladder.
Right.
That black people have someone to look down upon, but they don't get to that for a while. They talk about who they are and what they're doing and being illegal aliens. So Gilda, again, Gilda plays a character you'd never get away with today. The Guatemalan cleaning lady, but it's so weird. I think John might be reprising his character from Wolverines. He has got that immigrant.
Maybe
he's at least dressed the same with the overcoat. He's even carrying the bag of groceries.
Oh, you're right.
So it's the nod to that. Jane is playing a character she played before.
Right.
That's the character she played in that Army surplus store with Fred Willard.
Right.
She came in looking for So, and Gilda will play this character again next season. We'll see it a few times. So there's like a little bit of like inner world building. But it's not until the holy shit moment of the sketch.
Yeah.
Where I literally said out loud, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Where John uses the term new niggy. And then like Garrett's like, say what? And then there's a lot of back and forth. Interesting.
Yeah, it was something.
It was another slow one, like I said. But yeah, it's 1979. I get it, and it does get funny at this point. The audience is at least enjoying it, and they're laughing. And I will say, I think Garrett does a good job of bringing it home, especially at the end when he starts putting pieces together. Of now we have somebody to look down upon, and we're not the lowest people on the ladder anymore. And you kind of see where they were going. It just took a little while to get there.
Took quite a while to get there.
Yeah. Here's an odd fact. This is the last black perspective we'll ever see, which I just think to me was odd. Well, because you have Garrett next season. I mean, you've got, and I mean, really like Bill Russell is your only African-American host and or musical guest maybe. But I mean, you just would think like they've used it a bunch that maybe.
But I think maybe like this one proves
they realize
you can't do it.
Well, then I don't know. It's
Julian Bond or
right. I don't know. Bill Russell could be funny. You know, they had
maybe
Frank
Bill Russell was like,
on.
No
maybe Bill
fucking way.
I can't wait till we let me look that up. I would love to see that in the rehearsal notes as black perspective. Bill Russell was like, excuse me.
Yeah.
Like looking down, literally down at everybody. Literally. Excuse me.
Yeah.
You could be right.
Well, from there we get Dan to camera. And I was excited for a minute. I'm sure this time. Because I wrote down Bill, so I'm pretty sure it was Dan. And he's talking about, I mean, this is another thing where it takes a while to get to what he's actually talking about, but he's talking about veterans of foreign hairdos. And then we get a run of pretty much everybody with crazy hairdos. I don't know. The only one I actually enjoyed was Maureen Stapleton's.
I agree.
Like the mountain in the back and the bridge. And then she's talking about it. And
because she's the only one who's into it too. Everyone else is complaining about these hairstyles they got, hairdos they got while they were overseas on vacation. And she likes hers, which was great. Right. Even though I think she was having a little trouble with the lines where they just weren't hitting. Because I enjoyed her perspective and like it was a fun thing to see, but her performance might not have been the best, sadly.
Yeah. I mean, I did enjoy her thing, but the whole the sketch in general, I was just like, what are we doing? I'm very confused. I didn't know why we were doing this or really where it came from.
You know who wrote it? Want to guess?
Brian McConaughey.
Yeah.
Hey.
And I think this was a holdover from Margot Kidder. I think they had this and they wrote it for Margot's episode, which to your point of like, why are we doing this? And we kind of talked about this at Milton Berle. Maybe they're having trouble finding stuff for the host this week. And I always say this on episode 19, they're saving stuff for Buck. You know what I mean? I think it's a little from column A and a little from column B. It's a very odd choice before Buck Henry. And so you're saving your quality stuff for Buck, and you've got an older non-comedic actress and you're having trouble finding stuff. And so you're digging through. So that's why some stuff might feel half thought out. Some of it's stuff you wrote a month ago.
Yeah.
That you bring back. I don't know.
No, that's interesting. That's sometime in our down season, we should take a look at the episodes before the
penultimate
Buck Henry,
episodes.
Steve. Well, I think that would be fascinating because episode 19.
The penultimate ones always are interesting, but yeah, even the ones before Buck, if it's not like an Elliot Gould or somebody big, it is. Right. It's always interesting. I feel like I've used this excuse a lot of like they're saving it for Buck.
Right. And sometimes they do, and sometimes it doesn't work out. But
right.
Yeah. I don't know. This was the one where I was like, what are we doing here?
I did like the slogan at the end. So they come back after they see everybody and they bring I was wondering where Jane was, and then she slides back in with her Dolly Parton impression as like the spokesperson or celebrity, whatever. And but the veterans of foreign hairdos. We're the veterans of foreign hairdos. When you take your hair over there, it's only fair that we care. And then Jane comes in. So there. And I did like that. I like that.
You liked the rhyming?
I did. It doesn't take
Have
much.
you been reading a lot of Dr. Seuss with your daughter? Is that why?
Yeah. Quick, short sentences. Right up my alley.
Yeah.
Sentences or fragments of sentences. That's all I need.
Oh, has your daughter been reading you Dr. Seuss? I guess that was the question I should have asked. Well, after this, we get Phoebe Snow and Linda Ronstadt back again, this time to sing the song Married Men, which apparently Phoebe had covered after the two of them saw the Roaches play this in New York City a year before. And now this was what I was wanting from the two of them, where they were singing and harmonizing, and they really like their voices were the focal point of this song. And this one I really enjoyed.
I checked out. I took these 3 minutes to start my research on Linda Ronstadt and Phoebe Snow.
Oh, so you didn't listen to the lyrics of this song?
No notes. And I don't mean that because I love the no, I got nothing. No, I don't. I wasn't that captivated. I assume it's about a married man.
Oh, no. No. Oh. You would be wrong. It is about the multiple married men that this singer is sleeping with.
Oh, this sounds like a good version of that Judy Collins song I hated.
I don't even remember that Judy Collins song. That's how little I gave it.
It's like about people divorcing each other, sleeping with other people, something like that. Very 70s.
This is one verse is, one of them's got a little boy, another one he's got two. One of them's wife is 1 week overdue. I know these girls don't like me, but I am just like them. Picking a crazy apple off a stem. Giving it to the married men.
Whoa.
Giving it to the married men.
Who was this? Who sung it originally? The Who? I mean, not the Who, but
not the Who. No, it's not the Who. The Roaches.
The Roaches. Okay.
Yeah. Interesting song. And I just thought it was really great that their vocals I thought were great. So I enjoyed this one.
Yeah. This was, she, like you said, she covered this on her last album, and an album she called Phoebe Snow. She called it a disaster. And that's why I was like, that's when I learned she only made like 1 or 2 more albums in the next 10 or 12 years.
Yeah. That's a bummer.
I also learned during the singing of the song that Linda Ronstadt was in a group called Trio.
Yes.
With Dolly Parton and Emmylou Harris.
Yes.
I did not know that.
You probably would know some of their songs if you heard them.
Maybe.
I think.
Because it was like the 80s. I think they won a Grammy for like country something or other. Yeah. I did not know. The name Trio did not ring a bell.
No, but their songs might.
Their songs. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
After that, we go back to the mall.
Mm-hmm.
And this time we're in the candy store, which is run by Maureen.
As per usual, I love the opening shot where there's a store and you can see the the Scotch boutique and then their stores. I love that little touch. I always do.
This time there is a going out of business party for Puppyland.
Puppyland must be spring.
Must be spring.
Isn't that how they set it up last time? They can't close Puppyland until the spring.
Yes. Gilda comes over in her Scotch boutique uniform. Dan comes in again as Floyd.
Everybody is recurring. Oh, not everybody. Sorry.
Not everybody's recurring.
No. We get Jane and Lorraine as the Puppyland people, but everybody else we've seen before, which is
everyone else we've seen.
Which is cool. Yeah.
John plays Kevin, the stock boy from Scotch Tape Store, who's got a wad of cash that no one else has because he's been helping people pack up their businesses.
And he's trying to get her to go to the party so we can watch the store. And the entire time he's like slowly like trying to pull trays of candies towards himself. She's like, no, I'm good. You know?
Yeah. This is another one. I thought John was very good in this sketch too, because he was a more subdued, like subtle character.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, the mall sketches are always interesting. They all seem to, they all come late, obviously, in the episode. And they always seem to come in odd episodes, I guess.
I think that's true.
But it is fun to see the characters from the old sketches come back in these new settings. And they all played pretty well in this one. Like, it didn't feel forced. You know what I mean? The reason people were coming in, it kind of all worked. And there was something about having Maureen Stapleton play the store owner that worked, and definitely worked better than the last time with Ricky Nelson. Like, you know what it is? Her being an older person kind of helps sells the changing of the guard of like old mall, new mall. And you could buy that this was like a woman who'd run this store forever in this mall. And now there's some new flashy place. And so I think she worked very well. Kind of like Fred Willard. I mean, he wasn't that much older, I don't feel like, but he carried himself older.
Yeah.
And it
the way
played
he played
better
it,
than Ricky Nelson and Bill Murray kind of being two young barbershop guys. Probably didn't help that sketch as much. But I did like her in that role.
Yeah. And it was more natural that people would be coming into this candy store to go to the party and give them a parting gift of candy. Like that made more sense than everyone needs a haircut in this 5-minute window.
Right. And they did good ways of working in little jokes. Like you mentioned John with the money, and Dan comes in to buy the candy when John's in there and he doesn't have the money. So he tries to put it on his tab and he can't pay it. So then he borrows $20 from John and he'll pay him back, or to pay her. And
and then John goes to pay her and she doesn't have change. And she's like, oh, give me the 20 and come back tomorrow and I'll give you change. And he's like, okay.
Yeah. I thought the best joke or laugh just came from it being Puppyland. Because it was all like, I just really appreciated how that was all basically set up in the previous incarnation of the sketch.
Right.
Like it's all from that. They talked about Puppyland. When's it going to close? Puppyland can't close. And now it's closing. Like I really appreciated that. It's like that whole world building Don Novello always does with these things. And these same characters coming in, kind of growing and telling their stories back and forth. It's just, they're, as per usual, there's not a lot of jokes in it, but that's never the point with these sketches.
Right.
Really. But it was a good one. I think Maureen Stapleton was a good addition to this world.
Yeah. And this was a really good role for her too. Like it wasn't a heavy lift, but it was also enough meat for her to do something and to like interact with different people in different ways was good.
Yeah. So I guess she got two good sketches, this and Mother-Daughter, like where she really had stuff to do and work with. Other than that though, there's not much.
Well, our last sketch of the night is Mr. Bill Goes to the Movies. And he is going to see his grandfather, Vaudeville Bill, from his 1924 film that was part of Sluggo's Follies. Did you see that?
Yeah.
It was so similar to a Mr. Bill sketch, but it was done in a different way. And I liked that it was like done in this old-timey silent film kind of way. Just something different.
It was different. I will give it credit for that. I didn't love the silent filmness of it.
Well, yeah. Like part of it was silent film, and it was funny because they would put the cards up that said, "Oh."
Yeah.
But then towards the end, all of a sudden it was not silent anymore. Like it was just, I don't know, weird. It got weird.
Yeah, it was interesting. I liked some stuff. Like, did you notice when he takes Mr. Bill out of the seat to go, he's got to go work the projection or something like that.
Yeah.
And he leaves Spot and the seat flips up, that they put a dog yelping sound effect in.
Yes.
I liked that. And then I liked Mr. Bill. He has to work the projection. And he's like, no, I can't. I'm not in the union. And it cuts off his hand and they cut to the screen and you see a Play-Doh hand come across the screen. I liked those two jokes before you actually got into the silent film bit. And they had another nice joke in there where it was at the end and they started throwing stuff at the Mr. Bill vaudeville bill. And they literally threw everything, including the kitchen sink. Because at one point a kitchen sink throws on stage.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Like that was like all this stuff keeps coming on. And the last thing is a kitchen sink. And I was like, well done, Walter. Well done.
Yeah. That was good.
So, but I agree with you. It was nice to see it being different. You know, we've complained so many times this season of everything's being churned out and repeated. And even this episode, half thought out and just hitting the well. And this is, I mean, it's Mr. Bill, which always hits the well, but it is different. It's a very different take on it.
And it was a good way to wrap up the show, I thought. Because that's it. From there we go to good nights. That's our show. And it was going out on a high note.
Yeah. And everyone is happy to be there. They're having a blast. I'm not going to lie. Bill Murray picking up Maureen Stapleton and bouncing her around the stage might have been the most fun thing I saw this whole episode.
Yeah, it probably was. I think.
They truly do love her, which was nice to see. Because again, couldn't really figure out why she was on there. So it was nice to see that after the episode. But I don't get why she was on. Why she hosted, why they would pick her to do this.
No, I don't know. She was in a few sketches, but she was only really a part of 2 sketches.
Right.
I guess
like
3.
meaningfulness. Meaningful. Yeah.
Yeah. The hairdo one was easy, so I didn't count that. But the candy store and the mother-daughter slice of life were the ones where it was a little meatier for her.
Yeah, these we should go back one day and look at these penultimate episodes because just always intrigued. Or like you said, the pre-Buck. Like last year was Richard Dreyfuss, which I don't think we really enjoyed. And it was Shelley Duvall the year before that, which wasn't too stellar.
Right.
I'm just curious to see, like over the course of the 5 seasons, how like a pre-Buck or a pre-Steve hold up.
Right.
Where is there a pattern anywhere? So because I don't know. It was odd that they seemed not have a lot tonight, unfortunately.
Yeah. It really felt like let's get to the end of this season and roll into the summer. And, John and Dan are like looking forward to their summer and they have
they've got stuff to do. And it's like, I mean, we talk with Rosie. I mean, didn't she say season 4 is like exhausting? It's just like everyone is just like, it's the end of the season. It's a rough season. You're dealing with John not being there and fighting half the time. And Dan was kind of checked out between shooting 1941 and writing the Blues Brothers movie. So I think this is a very long season for everybody. And at this point, they're just like, let's finish this and get Buck and take the summer off.
Yeah. Well, that's a shame for Maureen Stapleton. But I felt like the stuff they gave her that had meat to it, she did a nice job. Yeah,
I ended this episode not liking it at all. And talking it through, I think I appreciate it a little bit more than I did when I saw it. I think I appreciate mother-daughter a little bit more. And I did like, Candy Store when I saw it, but I feel like with everything going on, it's not the worst. But it is very bad, sadly.
Yeah, it is not great.
Well, Gary, what are your best bits?
Oh, you're turning it around on me, huh?
Oh, yes, I am.
Oh, yeah, I had the Candy Store. That was it. That was my best bit for the night. Again, I don't think it was. It's that world. That's why it's that world that I enjoyed. So, how about you?
I didn't have one. That's why I wanted you to go first. I was like, maybe mother-daughter, because I guess the question is really, and I'm glad I'm asking this out loud at the end of season 4 of this podcast. is what exactly is the best bit? Like, is it the best thing from the, like something you have to, like normally there's something where like you have to watch this something from this episode.
Right.
And I don't think, like, I agree with you. I liked Candy Store, but I don't think it's a must see. I enjoyed it.
Oh, I don't see. I think this is where we differ on what best bits are. I don't think of best bits as being must see because it's not a must see. It's the best bit of the night.
Best of the night.
And it's sometimes, I mean,
But
you've had shows where you've had nothing.
Well, that's why I'm saying, sorry, Dick Cavett. He should have got something season 1. I don't know. Do you put mother-daughter up there? That's the only other thing I would throw up is maybe mother-daughter to see her and Gilda together.
Maybe.
I'd go mother-daughter. I'd do it over Candy Store.
Yeah.
It's worth it to see the two of them together. It's a nice slice of life. The performances are great, and I think Gilda does a really good job. Yeah, I'll go mother-daughter.
All right. For me, that one, you know, like I said, that was only like the last minute or so of that sketch really hit for me. But so it goes. That's what happens. Not everything is a winner. Next week on the early years of SNL, we'll be talking about the season finale, season 4, episode 20, with host Buck Henry and musical guest Bette Midler. That's an all-star lineup, Brad.
Indeed.
That'll be a fun one. Until then, good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
And have a pleasant tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to the Not Ready for Primetime Project. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, please take a moment to rate and review the project wherever you find us. You can also drop us a line to let us know what you liked or didn't and what else you might like to hear in the future at nr4ptproject@gmail.com. And lastly, you can find us on social media everywhere at nr4ptproject. Thanks again for listening. Have a pleasant tomorrow. And maybe you and I are just the wrong audience for this piece.
Could be. Edit this out. Like one of our viewers who's like, I know these slices of life are usually written by women for women. Whatever. That was a comment we got. One of our comments. Rate and review, everybody.